Good morning, everybody. This video was prompted by two things. One, I have a lot of brand new subscribers who probably haven't watched all my older videos from at least a year ago and older. And I need to get this information out again. It's worth repeating every single year and more often, actually. And also by something I was watching yesterday as I was crocheting on the lap gan that I have the tutorial for. I have the tutorial part one is the actual lap gan, and the part two is how to do the border on it. I'm almost finished with it. I'm about ready to do the last sequence of colors and then the border. But I hope you have watched Farmageddon. It was put out a couple years ago. I can't remember exactly what year. The full movie is on YouTube. And I rewatched as I was crocheting yesterday. My husband had laid down to take a rest. It's about the war on raw milk, basically, and overall our fundamental right to feed ourselves with what we deem to be superior nutrient-dense food. One young mother in Farmageddon truthfully stated, she said she can go out and feed her children fast food 3 times a day. She's been through 4 pregnancies and she could have smoked cigarettes through all 4 of them, but she can't go to a farmer near her and purchase this nutrient-dense, really healthful, amazing raw milk. The war on raw milk basically is an unconstitutional assault on one of our most basic rights. It's the right to choose what you're going to eat, what you want to put in your body, what you want to eat, what you want to drink, what you do not want to put in your body. We had that battle for the last 2 years. And that battle is now in full swing, and it's going to intensify. Now, another reason I want to talk about this right now is that chick days are almost here. In fact, some people may already be getting chicks in at some of the feed stores. And I want to caution you, if you have not heard me talk about this, I do have a video on it called What Does the Government Have to Do with Your Chickens? It's about the NAIS, the National Animal Identification System, that they've been trying to foist on us for a long time. And a lot of people don't know anything about this. They want to, and they keep trying to make it more palatable and rename it and call it different things. They want to register every single chick, even if it's only by use for your family, and not in the national food supply. They want to know where every chicken is, when it dies, if it leaves your property, if new ones come to your property. Frankly, something they have no right to know. And that's control. That's not about safety, that's about control. They'll tell you it's the law, they'll tell you it's about safety, but it isn't. It's all about control. It's not about safety. Now, what does that have to do with chick days? Well, if any of you have already purchased chicks at Tractor Supply, tell me they didn't ask for your name and address, where those chicks are going. Tell me that you didn't pay with something they can keep a record of. Please tell me you paid with cash. If you didn't last time, please don't make that mistake again. I have never paid for anything at the feed store. Feed, supplies, chicks, anything. And I never bought at Tractor Supply. Don't buy the chicks there, ever. But I've never paid with anything except cash. All of the years I've had chickens. Never a credit card, never a check, always cash. And I'm not on their rewards list either, where they can say, oh, well, a certain amount of, you buy a certain amount and you get discounts. I'm not on that either, and that's by design. There have been feed store owners that told me the feds have come in on one of their customer lists. It's not about safety. They'll tell you, oh, it's so if there's an outbreak, we can notify you. No, that's not what it's about. It's so they know where to come and kill all your chickens if there is an outbreak in the commercial flock anywhere within a certain range of your property. That's what they want your address for. And it's not to protect you or your flock. is to make sure they protect the commercial flocks, which are the most likely to have disease and the most likely to have it spread like wildfire, because it's a monoculture. They're crammed into small cages for the most part, and of course they don't keep them more than 2 years, if that, before they execute them all or whatever. They may sell them to some people, I don't know. But this wanting to know where the chicks are going is a control thing. When I bought my chicks, I hadn't had hatchery stock in many years until I bought the Dirty Dozen plus one, who are now the Fabulous 15. This was a feed store I'd never purchased chicks from before. And she said, well, you know, I'm supposed to ask for your name and address. She says, I got a lot of Supermans and Batmans on this list. She said, put whatever you want. So they don't like it much either. And of course, we did not put our correct name and address. It's none of their business what I'm buying, how many I'm buying, where they're going. It's none of their business. These chickens are for my family's use, and that is absolutely none of their business. But it's all about control, not safety. So, you know, this thing about Farmageddon, it's all about the raw milk problem. It's not just raw milk, it's other things too. They have raided farms. They have brought in armed thugs to scare children, and come in the house. One family, I'm not going to tell you about it, but you need to watch it. People say, oh, it's sensationalized. Oh, they're just trying to. One lady in the video surprisingly said, I realize the government's just trying to protect us. I'm thinking, you are so naive. No, they're not trying to protect you. They want to control you. The idea that you don't have the right to drink safely collected raw milk, a natural food that's been consumed for centuries, and has proven health benefits, including beneficial enzymes and bacteria that make it possible for supposedly lactose intolerant people to actually consume milk if they choose. It's an insane idea, considering the fact that we've seen more and more outbreaks of rare virulent forms of E. coli in commercially produced and bagged produce. And I'll tell you one thing I think is causing it, and I'm going to have to read you something, so I've got a piece of paper here. But a lot of these workers in the fields are actually, let's just say, evacuating themselves in the fields. And I watched some of the guys who worked on the renovation of my house. And I thought, oh my God, if y'all are doing that in fields out there, this is a problem. When they had to sneeze or whatever, going to get rid of something in their nasal passages, they didn't use a Kleenex. They didn't do anything. They put their finger on one nostril and they blow snot out of the other one onto the ground. If they're doing that in the fields, there's where your E. coli and all your filth comes from. It's not sanitary. This is the feds. Oh, it's washed. Well, where's E. coli coming from? You see what I mean? Workers crapping in the fields. The farmer's handkerchief, which is, blowing snot on the ground. So the feds don't keep you safe, not by a long shot. Not to mention, they just don't have a clean record. They don't have a clean track record of safe food. And when that happens, nobody goes to those places with 50 armed agents threatening and terrorizing people and stealing property from them. But they do if it's a small family farm. So let's talk about the meters on your private wells that you pay to maintain and repair, and you pay for the electricity to run. Or it's not about your health, that's about control. It's always about control. It's an assault on private property rights and food rights, your bodily autonomy. We're being assaulted every day and more by the federal government. The federal government, in my opinion, should be abolished, other than to have an organized military for defending our borders. Our borders, not Ukraine's borders, not anybody else's borders, our borders. That's the only reason, in my opinion, for federal government. The states can handle everything else, literally everything else. That would get the globalist elites like the reprobate Biden clan and their ilk out of our hair, and we could deal with everything at a local level. So when all these things were happening in the documentary, with the farms being harassed and property stolen and lies being told about them, and they'd have these co-ops. They'd have these co-ops where people would sign up for them, and they would actually pay a membership fee, and they come every week or whatever, however the period was, and to come get their food that they paid for, and it was like a membership thing, right? It's a co-op. Well, that's what a lot of this was. And then they would, one guy had bought a lot of gallons of good, safe, fresh, raw milk from a farm in South Carolina, and he'd come over the state line, and they were freaking out about this. They crossed the state line, and they stopped his truck, and they made him pour out everything on the ground. Well, the FTCLDF, which is the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, they sued the FDA in 2010, and they asserted that it was unconstitutional to ban the raw milk in interstate commerce. Well, in the answer, there were a few statements that blew my mind. And the FDA clearly made its position known in those statements about freedom of food choice in general, and your right to obtain, raw milk in particular. But don't just think about this as something to do with raw milk, okay? That's what this was about, but this is not really what it was actually about in the end. Their answer reads like this. There's some of the parts of their answer to the lawsuit will make your jaw drop, and you're going, what? How dare you? But it doesn't just apply to raw milk. It applies to your right to eat, period. Okay, let me read you a couple of the statements that they made in their answer, okay? One of the statements was, there's no absolute right to consume or feed children any particular food. Well, if I don't have the right, that means you have the right to tell me what I can consume? That's what they were saying. Okay. Plaintiffs' assertion of a fundamental right to their own bodily and physical health, which includes what foods they do and do not choose to consume for themselves and their families, is similarly unavailing, because plaintiffs do not have a fundamental right to obtain any food they wish. Even if such a right did exist, it would not render FDA's regulations unconstitutional, because prohibiting interstate sale and distribution of unpasteurized milk promotes bodily and physical health. You have to prove that statement. You'd have to prove that statement to me. You would have to prove that statement. I don't have a right to feed my children what I want to. I don't have a right to not allow them to. Do you know how that could, do you really think about how far that could be taken? And one last thing, this is in regard to the co-ops and the people's memberships for co-ops. They said there is no fundamental right to freedom of contract. I can't make an agreement with whoever I feel like making an agreement with. That's called free enterprise. That's called a free market. Yes, I do have the right to freedom of contract. That's free market. Everything that they said shows very clearly that this is all about control. It's not about health whatsoever. And take it further. What stops these people from saying that you can't keep poultry? Because gathering eggs from a nest, eggs from hens, I know what they've eaten and what they haven't, and I know what medications have been given, what haven't. Now, that's actually none. Gathering eggs from a nest and putting them in a carton in your fridge is dangerous, and you're no longer allowed to do so. What's to stop them from saying that? That's coming. And that's what I think a lot of the bird flu stuff is all about. All the bird flu scares. Yeah, there is such a thing as avian influenza. I'm not saying there's not such a thing, but they use a lot of that. And a lot of that stuff starts overseas, and they don't have the same controls on their plants and their operations as we do. They don't have a lot of the same cleanliness standards, let's just say. But what's to stop them from saying, I can have chickens, I just can't eat their eggs? It's dangerous. You know, it's dangerous. Nothing stops them right now, at this point in time, from saying that, other than my God-given right to feed my family as I see fit. Of course, the federal government wants to be your God. Of course, it's at its core an amoral beast, like the blob swallowing up everything in its path. And it's driven by the god of this world, Satan. And nothing's ever been more clear as it has been the last few years. It's anti-God, it's anti-family, it's anti-American. This administration's current administration has shown exactly what they are. That you must inject yourself with whatever we tell you, regardless of your trepidation or evidence that it could harm you. You can't drink raw milk, though our ancestors did for century upon century. Even my own sons were fed a raw cow's milk formula. They never had commercial formula. And before somebody says, you shouldn't breastfeed your children, honey, you don't know my business, okay? They were partially, okay? You don't know how that went. So before you lecture me, stop right there. I've had somebody do that before. Stop it. You don't know what I went through with that, okay? There's a reason they were on formula, and I made the best formula possible. But the Fed's way has not made anyone safe. How many recalls, how many food recalls have we had? Oh, you know they can have so many rodent hairs in peanut butter. You think that's good? How is that safe? They're in bed with big agribiz and big pharma. The money is flowing, and it's not flowing into my pocket. It's flowing into some globalist pockets. And money buys loyalty. You know that. My beautiful, sweet, wonderful late best friend, Lady Hawk. Money talks, bullshit walks. That's what she would say. God bless her. I miss her so much. So every day I want to talk to her about this stuff. But you know what? You got to be your own advocate. Please do not give your information. If you buy chicks somewhere, do not give them your information, and please pay cash. Please do that. I see a healthy black market. And I know these people want to make money and they want to cover their expenses, but we're going to have to do this on the table. There's a farm about 30 miles from me. I don't know if they still do it, but they would sell raw milk, and they would label it not for human consumption, but we all knew why everybody was buying it. I would have bought it if they lived closer to me. I would have got some for sure. The last actual raw milk that I actually had was when my friend Kate, who used to live about 25 miles from me, we had met on a agricultural newspaper, which is bizarre, but she actually had goats. She raised prize-winning Nigerian dwarf goats, and she milked the goats. And one time on one visit, she came and she brought me 2 quarts of raw goat milk. Oh my God, that was so wonderful. The cream on that was so rich and so wonderful. And I used it in my coffee, and I was so sad when it was gone. It's like, oh my God. And then she moved to Florida. Oh my God. Then she moved to Florida and she left me. But if I had a source for raw milk right now for my coffee, I would be buying it. But I tell you what, you've got to be your own advocate for your health. You got to watch out for, when they say this is for your own good and your own safety, believe the opposite, because that's exactly what's going on. I would encourage you to watch Farmageddon. If you have not watched it, please watch it. You know, there's some improvements that could have been made in the video, sure, but oh my God, these things really did happen to people. I don't know what I would have done if feds came onto my property with drawn guns and handed my child at the door a warrant. And then the first time I saw the guy, I was at the top of my stairs and he had a gun pointed at me up the stairs and he said, "Ma'am, come down," and he didn't identify himself and she didn't know who he was. He could have got shot. Of course, it wouldn't done her any good. She'd end up in prison, even though she didn't know who he was invading her house. You don't give a warrant to a child. What's wrong with you? But in any case, never believe that it's for your own good. They want you to register your chicks. They want to know where all your chicks are going. Not for your good, not for your flock's good. What are they going to do to help your flock? If there's a disease in the area, what are they going to do? Put a dome over your house? So I hope my new subscribers will go back and look at that. What does the government have to do with my chickens? That's the NAIS. I explained what that is and how that came about. I actually got the local newspaper to write an article about it years ago, but they didn't take it seriously. These people don't take things seriously. But I tell you what, after watching that, I thought, you know what? I think I'm gonna let Cricket hatch more chicks in the spring. It's almost a given. She'll go broody again. That girl lives to hatch babies. The FDA and the USDA do not know best, and neither do the YouTube censors. You can take that to the bank. Have a great day, everybody. Have a good week. And yeah, I'll try to put in the iCard the links to the other videos I'm talking about chick days and should you vaccinate your chicks. YouTube. I'm talking about chickens. And with what? And what does the government, talk about the government programs and the NPIP program, the National Poultry Improvement Plan program, which is not for backyard flocks. That's not why it was created. Everybody's going, "Oh, I'm going to be NPIP certified." I'm thinking, just don't. But anyway, I hope you got something out of this. But yeah, their attitude that it's not, you don't have a fundamental right to eat, to decide what you eat and drink and what you don't eat and drink. You don't have a fundamental right to feed your children the way you want to. Who does? You know who they say does. And it's not you. But I got news for them. God gave me the right to do those things. And they can't take them away. And if they try, they're going to be sorry. So, be suspicious of everything and question everything. Bye, y'all. Have a good day.